Hey everyone. Today on Dogmatic DIY, I'm going to show you how I did this farmhouse ceiling. Now I know it's been a while since I've posted a video this year, and this is the reason why. So this took me, well, it wouldn't have taken me a month if I could work on it every day, but I was pretty much just working on it on weekends. All the boards were stained. So what I was doing during the week is I would stain some boards, like 6 at a time, because I had to bring them inside because it's cold outside in the garage, and having the room to spread it out so they could dry. So, and that's why you're seeing a camera angle on an angle so you can see the ceiling. So I'm going to show you how I installed this or built this. So let's get going. While editing this video, I realize it's about 30 minutes long, so I'm going to split this video into 2 parts. So the first part will be mainly about how to figure out how to get your ceiling ready by finding the studs or the joists and getting your wood prepared and stuff like that. And then we'll do part 2 with the installation and a couple the other little tips and tricks that go along with it during it. So here's part 1. Getting ready to do the ceiling. As you can see, I brought some of the boards down because it's cold in the garage, so I want these to dry out so I can see which ones are straight, which ones are warped. So everybody's a liar. So first, as you can see those lines there, so I'm trying to find the studs. The hard part about finding a stud in a stucco ceiling or joist, floor joist, ceiling joist, whatever, is your stud finder can't find it through the stucco. People go and say, oh, you could just put a thin piece of cardboard up there and find it. No, you can't. If you can, you're very lucky, or either that or you got an extra strength stud finder. That one I have does not work. So what I did is, sorry from the movements, is I pulled down the pot light there and I found that stud there. I saw that stud. I did a measurement. It's 16 inches on center. So I measured 16, 16, and then 16, and saw that one there, and the distance is correct. So I'm starting to go across, do a 16. So what I'm gonna end up having to do, so I can get a chalk line from one end of the room to the other, is I'm gonna have to start popping some nails or take a measurement, say from this one here, from the wall, take approximate measurement at this end, and try to find each end of the stud. And that way I can draw the string line across. A lot more work than just using the stud finder, but gotta do what you gotta do. Other than that, I'm scraping the ceiling, and no sense me even putting the wood up if I'm just scraping ceiling anyways. And if people say that taking the stucco ceiling is not that difficult, I have a friend that did it, and he said that was one of the worst jobs he's ever had. So what I'm doing here now is I'm taking some of these boards. Originally, I was going to use these shiplap planks. So they were kind of like this, about this wide, and what they had, they're 1 inch, and I think they're 1x8s they're called. So it had almost, I wouldn't call it a tongue and groove, but it had an overlap half the width where the next board can overlap over top. So you don't see, say, the gap here. But when I did the cost, and good luck trying to find it because there's literally only one store in my city that even sells that type of shiplap. Not only did just the ceiling, 300 square foot ceiling it would have cost me close to $2,000, but they didn't even have enough to do it. And I guess it's the company, their vendor company, is a special order. So they couldn't even guarantee me. So I end up getting these. These are, what are they called? SPF or SDF. I can't remember now. SPF 1x6s, and it will work just fine. The only thing is I want to make sure I don't see much of a gap here, because then you're going to see the white. Because if I start getting warped boards where I can see the gap, I'm going to end up just getting some black spray paint, which I'm going to be spray painting those black anyways, and the pot lights black anyways, but I want to try to avoid having any gaps where you can see through. So I'm taking all the good boards, because when you get a delivery, they're not going to give you the best boards they have. They're just going to grab the first 85 boards that you need and just bring you 85 boards. So I'm going to try to pick all the flat ones first and do that and get those all dinged up and stained. As you can see, I put some nail marks, some hammer marks and stuff like that. And then I'm going to stain them, special walnut. And then any other board that's just warped slightly, I can dampen it and then bend it to straighten it out. Any one that have cracks in them or chunks out of them, I will take them back and replace them. So I'm just doing it as in chunks at a time. That's why you don't see, this isn't even half of them right now. This is, I'd say about a third of them. And I want to get them in, get them dried, and then check them for any marks, check them for any warps, as I do have a couple in there. I'm using that actual floor to see if there's any warp in the board. I don't care if it cups, because then I'm just nailing it to the studs anyway, so I can bring that up closer. I just can't have it warped. How would I say it? So if I look at this board warps from here in and out that way, and not hump this way, right? So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to get all these boards prepped, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I got my string lines and how we're going to get this up. So I end up finding a joist at the edge here. So that's good. So the end of my wood will at least screw into something solid. But this is the first one in this room. That's the 16 inches on center, right? So I measured to that line there. It's 9.5 inches from the wall. And how I'm going to find the studs over here is, as you can see, I did some holes. And that's what I tried to do. Then this is where I found that there is a stud or a joist near the wall there, because I did some pre-drilling just to see. So I measured my 9.5 to see, and I know you can't see inside, but that line there is 9.5. So it worked. So what I did is I started doing 16 inches on center, and then every couple I'll do a test to see if I'm on the stud. And as you can see, I ended up a little bit off. As you can see, I had to do so I could find both ends to make sure. But it doesn't matter, it's all going to be hidden. It was much better on this end because these lines aren't close to the wall here. So I wanted to get these walls, so I did the 9.5 first, found it, and then you can see I only had to drill once. Got much better at the measurements here. So now I'm going to do my chalk lines. So I'm going to screw, where is it? Here. Say for example, I'll screw it in over here. I'll pull it tight as I'm by myself and pull it tight at the other end, and then it just like a rubber band slap it. Here's some of my boards have been staining. I'm doing 6 at a time since I want to keep it indoors because not only do I not have a lot of room in my garage, as you know, I'd have to keep it heated. So no sense wasting electricity. I'll do it in here. So I will move these over and I'll show you. I left it unsanded because I wanted that rough cut lumber look too. So you can see some of the saw blades on some of the pieces. So I'm okay with that. I think it kind of gives it that rustic farmhousey look to it. As you can see, there's knots and different colors and stuff like that. So that's what I was doing. I got 12 of these stained now. I'll do another 6 after I do the chalk lines, and then we can start putting them in on the ceiling. So I'm going to put the camera on the stand so I'll show you how I'm going to do this chalk line. I won't show you everyone, but I'll at least show you how I did 1 or 2 of the chalk lines, okay? So here's my little chalk reel. It's a Mastercraft, nothing special. You'll see when I pull it, the hand wheel turns, but if I push the little button right here and push it in, the hand wheel doesn't turn. Now, to fill this with chalk, you have to turn this counterclockwise, and then it pulls out, and then you can just pour the powder in there. Notice though, when I put the powder in, the string's a little tighter, but not a big deal. So see how it has a little end here? I'm going to put a screw through this part right here, and then screw it into the ceiling there, and then pull it across to the other side, nice and tight, and then snap a line. I hope I have this set up where you can see, or I'm not going to block you. I'm going to let the string line hang a little bit while I put the screw in. Now I wanted to wear glasses so none of that chalk gets in my eyes. Now, come over to this end. I don't know if you'll be able to see that end or not. So I'm going to do each side of the joist just so I can kind of eyeball where the center is. So hopefully this is tight enough. Now I'm going to line this up super tight here. Make sure it goes to here. And did we even see a mark? Somewhat. I don't know if it's because the stucco makes it a little harder, but I'm going to run a second line here. I pull it back in so it gives more shock on it, right? Try not to touch any walls and get glue on the walls, but sometimes it's unavoidable. That's better. And see, it's hard to get it perfectly straight. And I'll do a zoom in here to see if you can see the blue line. I'm sure it's hard to see from there, but I don't know if you can see that. Now I'll move that over to the other side of the floor joist, and then I'll do it again, and then I'll do it all the way down. But if you saw, I snapped it twice, and it's a little off, but that's why I wanted to do both ends. That way I can kind of get the middle. I just want to make sure it's on that joist. I don't care where, as long as it's on the joist. I don't want to miss the joist at all, and then accidentally hit a wire. So I'm going to be using 2-inch brad nails on these, and make sure that it goes through the boards, which are between 5/8 and 3/4 thick, plus the stucco, the drywall, into there. So I know that between the drywall and the stucco and the boards, I'm over an inch. So I want to make sure that I get some of the nail into the floor joist. So that's why I'm going to use a 2-inch. I'm going to do all these other ones, and then I'll come back. I'll show you what the lines look like after I'm done. I've chalked about half the room, and you can see here, and it's very difficult to see some of these lines there. Hopefully you can see that. Definitely wasn't super easy because of how, when the ceiling's textured like this, sometimes it doesn't snap. So sometimes I'd have to come do 3 snaps. So I'd have to kind of divide the room into 4 and snap it multiple times, just because of, I guess, what you would call the elevation difference. So you can see from here, I've done and stopped about there. So I'm about halfway, but I don't have it all marked because all the wood's here. So I want to move these over, stay in the next 6, and then I can start stringing the next group, right? And then starting to nail them up. I can at least go, I left a mark, as you can see right there's a mark. This is the stud where I'm gonna be in the middle for my first 8-foot board. And what I'm going to do is, sometimes you might you stagger it, so you do 2 foot, 2 feet, 2 feet, or whatever. I'm gonna do 32 inches. That way I know each board is gonna be cut to the middle of the stud. So from there, the middle of that one to here, to this wall, isn't quite 8 feet. It's just a little under. So I'm good. I'd rather have it a little under than cut a tiny piece from this stud to the wall. So I'm just gonna do that, and then I'll minus 32 inches for the next piece, and then it's minus another 32 for that. So that an 8-foot board is 96. So it's 3 boards, right? So it's 96, minus 32 is 64, and then 32. So I'll do that. That way they are staggered, and each end comes into the middle of a stud, or what do you call it, floor joist, ceiling joist. So that's how I'm going to lay it out. I could do 16, but now I'm doing, quite a few of them. So I figured doing it 3 should be fine. And that way, at least I can get these boards up. And then now that it's not tongue and groove, it's just boards, I technically don't have to wait to do each one. I can just put them in, and then they just slide into place. I just make them fit right. So I'll see how it goes. But I do need more room, so I might end up having to move all this wood into another room so I can go towards that end of the room. All right, so let me get the next staining done. As you can see too, I'll show you. I'm banging up boards. I'm putting like bent nails on, hammer marks and chip marks in it just to rough it up. Not a whole ton, just do random things on the boards to make them look a little bit more beat up. So let me get these going, and I'll come back when I'm about ready to install some boards.